Good morning, beloved. I apologize right up front. My brand new mic is not working, so I'm forced to use the mic on my laptop. But I want to welcome you to a new year. And I know this kind of puts a date on this particular video, but it's important because this is the time of year that people make New Year's resolutions. I think there's something beautiful about a new year and the thought of doing something different, receiving something different than what happened last year, wiping the dust from our shoes of all the stuff that didn't happen last year that should have, all the stuff that we went through that was terrible, that a new year brings with it a refreshing, an idea that things can be different. But I have a thought for you today, and that's the difference between a resolution and a revolution. You know, a New Year's resolution many times lasts only about a month to 3 months max. A lot of people have New Year's resolutions. They're going to lose weight, they're going to save money, they're going to change jobs, they're going to fix whatever problems, or from last year. And there's a real energy to make that happen. But the difference between a resolution and a revolution is forcible action. A revolution, one of the definitions of a revolution is a sudden and radical or complete change. And oftentimes it takes something forcing us to do that. Something has to be so bad that it's forced changed in our mind and in our actions. Many times losing a loved one forces us to look at life differently. Losing our job forces us to look at different options. But you can have a forced action by choice. You can choose change. You and I have the ability to choose a different path, a different idea, a different concept. We can choose, and that many times is forced. We choose to do something different. Now, I want to take a jab at the millennials and the Gen Zs that are out there, and I want you to think about the difference between inspiration and transformation. There are so many things that are inspirational these days. We watch athletes do things and they inspire us. I remember in my younger years watching movies like Rocky or something, and man, I was inspired to go work out and start eating raw eggs and stuff. Or maybe you watched one of those Dirty Dancing movies and you decided you were going to be a dancer. I don't know. But many things inspire. And I'm all for inspiration. I really am. I think many things are put in our path. Even natural things. God puts beauty in our world and things that happen in our world that inspire us to look at life differently. But the difference between inspiration and transformation is application or forced action. When we do something with what we are inspired with, when we apply what we know, the knowledge that we have, knowledge alone, beloved, is not enough. We have more knowledge at our fingertips today than our forefathers had in every library that they could put their bodies in. We can push a button and look something up that we used to have to look up in a book, and then you had to have the book. You can find information and be inspired to make change all day long. But you have to do something with that knowledge. Knowledge alone won't get you there. You have a vehicle that you drive to work every day, and whether it's gas powered, diesel powered, electric powered, propane powered. That vehicle will tell you, it has a gauge on it that tells you you need to fill up. You need some more gas. Now, the manufacturers of those cars privately call those gauges idiot gauges, because if you don't do what the gauges tell you to do, you're an idiot. If the gauges tell you to put gas in it, but you don't put gas in it, you're going to end up walking. So the knowledge that you need gas is not enough to help you. It's inspiring. Whoa, I need to get gas or I'm going to end up walking. But if you don't get gas, you're still going to end up walking. So my challenge to you is to be a doer this year. My challenge this month, let's challenge ourselves to do something different the whole month. Let's stop watching one show and spend that time listening to the Word of God, or reading, or praying, or working out, or whatever it is that you have decided you want to do. Instead of just being inspired to do something, do it. I'm challenging you to take a month and do what you want to do. Put into action the idea, the thought, the difference that you want to make. Do it. You know, in Acts 2:42 it says they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and breaking of bread and fellowship and in prayer. That's the four spiritual food groups, by the way. They continued steadfastly. You know, the reason that most resolutions, New Year's resolutions, don't work is because we don't continue in it. We do it for a short time and then it gets hard and we fall back into old habits. But that's what transformation is all about, is continuing in a thing till the transformation takes place. It's not what you do for a week, it's what you do for a year that brings transformation. It's the habits that we have daily that affect our overall place in life. Not all of us have habits, good and bad. You have habits where you are always early, or you have habits where you are always late. And the truth of the matter is, beloved, if you can be continually 5, 10, 15 minutes late, you can, by choice, be continually 5, 10, 15 minutes early. You know, I was raised in a generation where they said if you were on time, you were actually late. The mindset was be early, show up early. Don't be one of those people pushing the envelope about being just on time or even late. And those habits have helped me create a better lifestyle for myself, quite honestly. And when I was 8 years old, my dad gave me a clock radio. And of course, that's ancient now, but the clock radio, you could set the timer on it. And when the timer went off, your radio station would come on playing music, or you'd hear the newscaster, or whatever it was. But I got to the place where that radio clock would go click, and it would take about 3 to 6 seconds before the actual music would come on. But by the time that thing clicked, I was actually awake and moving by the time the music started. I created a habit in my life that followed me through to today. Today, my alarm goes off. It's on my phone now, and it plays this real nice, easy music. But I can hear the first 2 or 3 notes of that music, and I'm moving. And I have a habit of thanking the Lord for 3 things, at least 3 things every morning and every evening, and forgiving anybody who would trespass against me before my feet hit the ground. That's a habit I've created that sets a pace for the day. And I'm so grateful. There is some downsides to that even on my day off, I often wake up at the same time, 6 o'clock, 5:30, whatever the alarm is set for. Usually it's about 6 o'clock. I wake up and I'm moving. Sometimes if I know I'm off, I try to go back to sleep, and usually it works till about 7:30, and then I just cannot sleep. I have to get up. But I've created a habit. I've created a habit of forgiving people beforehand. You know, the Bible says in Ephesians 4:32, "Be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you." So when I look at that, I'm reminded that God forgave you and I 2,000 years before our feet hit this planet. And we're the only army on the planet that tries to get ready for battle during the battle. We need to be prepared. We need to make up our mind ahead of time. And it is amazing if you presuppose what you're going to do. If you have an idea in your heart, if there's a fire, I'm going to do this. If there's an alarm, I'm going to do this. If this happens, this is going to be my action step. You will be surprised if you begin to think those things ahead of time, that when that happens, you automatically begin to head that way because you've already predetermined what you're going to do. So when it comes to forgiving, if you already have forgiven them in your heart and your mind, when it happens, you can make that decision. You don't have to pray through. You don't have to fast. You don't have to ask others to pray for you to help me forgive the sin. You've already made a decision. So once you and I start making a decision, our mind and body starts trying to find ways to make it come to pass. And if we continue steadfastly, if we continue in those things, and many times what we need is an accountability person. We need someone who's just going to ask us, how you doing with that diet? How you doing with that exercise? How you doing with that saving money? How are you doing with that new job or whatever? It's actions that's the difference between inspiration and transformation. It's the difference between resolution and revolution. And I believe for you and I, this to be a year of revolution. Not forcibly trying to overthrow things, but in our actions, purposing in our heart to say no to certain things, to push back on ideas that are trying to be forced on us, to say no to some things that we might have said yes to last year. But we would force ourselves past our bad habit, that we would predetermine, I am going to do this, and stop making excuses. You know, Benjamin Franklin said, people who are good at making excuses are seldom good at anything else. And man, that phrase has stuck with me ever since I read it. That I don't want to be a person of excuses. You know, excuses keep us from reaching our full potential, reaching our destiny, as a matter of fact. And so you'll find the people that you respect, the people that are making a difference, the people that you may not even like what they stand for, but they've stayed the course and they've seen change. You know, there's a lot of stations today that are showing things you and I never thought would be shown, but those people stayed the course until they were heard. When are we going to get it? That if we'll just stick together and stay the course, we can see change in our world. We can see change in our country. We can see change in our state. We can see change in our community. If we will but stay the course. If we will continue steadfastly. You know, there's lots of evidences in streams and rivers where water has penetrated through solid rock. You know how it did that? Staying the course. Just one droplet at a time, continuing to hit and to hit and to hit until it eroded a hole completely through the rock, or created a crevice that turned into something much, much deeper. And so it's stayed the course. I've watched trees grow up through cement sidewalks, and literally the sidewalk had to be replaced because the tree grew right through the sidewalk, because there was one glimmer of hope, and it found its way, the tree branch found its way through that little bitty crack, and then it just forced its way out by staying the course day after day, just pushing against that sidewalk. I have a friend who has a trailer that the foundation is completely messed up because a tree has found its way to grow out the side of the trailer, but because it was just far enough in the trailer, it's pushing up on the corner of the trailer and messing up the entire foundation of his trailer. How does it do that? A trailer is really, really heavy, but day after day it just pushes against it. It grows a little bit more and grows a little bit more and forces a little bit more. Now, there was a time it was small enough it didn't make that difference. But as it grew and gained momentum and gained power from doing the same thing over and over again, it has eventually changed the foundation of his entire home. That is the power of transformation, of continually doing something till it becomes your habit. And you might not even like what you do, but if you do it long enough, it will become the habit of your life. I do not like doing sit-ups. I don't like running, but I do it every day but Sunday, and it's a habit that has created benefits for me that I still don't like to run. I still don't like sit-ups, but I like the byproduct. And so I encourage you this year, instead of making a resolution, how about let's all determine to have a revolution, a forcible action that changes the outcome. Love y'all so much. Sorry for the mic not working. Had to go back to the old school. I hope you were able to hear it. If you believe this would help somebody you're connected to, would you push share right now and share it with somebody? I look forward to seeing you next week, where we will once again change thousands of lives together.